Wait, it's dangerous. Maya Williams' voice rang out like a warning bell through the polished corridor of the Vane Estate's east wing. The silver tray in her hands crashed to the floor, scattering crystal and porcelain across the marble tiles. At the far end of the hallway, Grayson Vane, billionaire CEO and host of the night's opulent tech gala, stopped mid-step. Dressed in a tailored black tuxedo, he turned with narrowed eyes toward the housemaid who dared speak out of turn. "What did you just say?" he barked. Maya didn't flinch. "Don't go in there, sir. Please, something's wrong." He strode forward, his polished shoes echoing sharply. "You are way out of line. Who the hell do you think you are, telling me what to do in my own house?" She stepped in front of the ballroom doors, hands raised. "Sir, I saw movement on the internal feed, a man in the restricted hallway. I don't think the system caught it. I'm asking you don't go in." You're asking me?" Grayson's voice dripped with disdain. "You're a maid. Your job is to wipe the damn floors, not play security analyst. Move. Now." When she held her ground, he shoved her. Maya stumbled backward, hitting the wall with a painful thud. Her eyes watered, not from pain, but frustration and fear. Grayson adjusted his cufflinks, muttered, "This is ridiculous," and threw open the ballroom doors, stepping into the applause of 200 guests awaiting the unveiling of his company's latest marvel, an AI diagnostic implant that could detect illness before symptoms appeared. The music played, the media buzzed, the world was watching. Then came the pop, small, sharp, but enough to freeze the crowd. A plume of smoke curled from the edge of the stage, gasps erupted, then screams. As security scrambled, no one saw the man in catering black step out from behind the curtain, a black mask over his face and a gleaming knife in his gloved hand. Maya, pushing through the panic, saw everything. "Grayson!" she screamed. He turned just as the masked man lunged. Maya tackled Grayson hard, knocking him to the floor. The knife grazed her shoulder, opening a line of fire across her skin. The attacker swore and raised the blade again. But Maya was already on him. She grabbed his wrist, twisted with expert precision, and slammed her knee into his thigh. He staggered. She moved fast, fluid, trained. Not like a maid at all. Her hand locked around his elbow, flipped his arm, forced the knife down. It clattered to the floor. "You stupid bitch," the attacker hissed. "You think this is your fight?" "I know it is," Maya growled, eyes locked on his. "And I don't lose fights I believe in." He headbutted her. She reeled back, stunned but not broken. Before she could recover, he bolted for the kitchen exit, shoving guests aside. Maya struggled to her feet, blood soaking her sleeve, breathing hard. Security finally arrived, but it was too late. The attacker was gone. If you feel connected to the character, give this video a like. And don't forget to comment where you're watching from. You might be surprised to find neighbors nearby watching too. Grayson Vane sat in his private study, his face pale, hands trembling for the first time in years. Jonas Creed stood nearby, tapping frantically at his tablet. "No one got a clear shot of the guy's face," Jonas said. "Security's combing the estate. We're checking exits." Grayson's voice was low, shaken. "Why would someone try to kill me? Who the hell did I piss off?" Jonas glanced at him. "It's probably corporate. Maybe a rival firm. Maybe someone inside. We'll find out." Grayson shook his head slowly. "That woman, Maya, she saved my life." "She also assaulted you," Jonas said sharply. "Let's not forget that. She defied protocol, disrupted the event. That won't look good. She took a knife meant for me." Jonas hesitated. "We can't let emotion cloud judgment." Grayson rose. "I need to see her." Maya lay in the estate's infirmary, arm bandaged, painkillers dulling the ache in her shoulder. She stared at the ceiling, expression unreadable. The door opened. Footsteps. She didn't turn her head. "They send you to fire me properly this time?" "No," Grayson said. She looked at him. The man was still in his tuxedo, though his bow tie hung loose. He looked tired, human. "You could have died tonight," she said softly. "I would have," he admitted. "If you hadn't. I told you it wasn't safe." He sat down beside her bed, silent for a long moment. Then, "You're not just a maid." Maya smiled bitterly. "That obvious?" He nodded. "The way you fought him. You moved like someone who's done it before. Maya turned her head toward the window. I was a federal agent, intelligence division, counter, surveillance. Grayson blinked. Was? I left, or was pushed out. Depends on how you look at it. Why? She turned back to face him. Because I spoke out. Because I wasn't white. Because I didn't look like the agents they wanted for the media cameras. Grayson didn't speak. I reported misconduct, an internal cover-up of a failed operation that led to civilian deaths. They said I was combative. Not a team player. I was suspended, then investigated, then blacklisted. Eventually, I became just a maid. He looked at her, more carefully this time. And yet you still jumped in front of a knife for someone like me. I didn't do it for you, she said. I did it because I don't let people die when I can stop it. A silence stretched between them. Grayson finally let out a slow breath and said, I was wrong. She raised an eyebrow. I treated you like you were nothing. I insulted you. Shoved you. And you still risked your life. That's more than I deserved. I'm sorry, Maya. Truly. Maya blinked, startled. The apology was genuine, not polished or prepared. It touched something in her, something long calloused over. Thank you, she said, her voice quiet. He sat forward slightly. I have a private security company, well-funded, well-structured. We handle sensitive assignments. What we don't have is someone with your background, your instincts, your courage. She frowned. What are you saying? I want you to come work for me, as an agent, not a maid. You'll report directly to me. Better salary, full clearance, no cameras watching you mop floors. Maya stared at him. For a long time, she said nothing. Then her voice cracked just slightly. I haven't felt useful in a long time. Grayson smiled faintly. You're not just useful, Maya. Tonight, you were everything. Her eyes welled, but she blinked the tears back. All right, she said. I'm in. Lou. Maya stood in front of the mirror in the staff bathroom, her newly bandaged shoulder throbbing beneath the fresh linen blouse Grayson had personally requested for her. Her old uniform lay crumpled in the trash, stained with blood and torn pride. She splashed cold water on her face, steadying her breath, trying to believe what had just happened. A maid, shoved and humiliated. A woman, praised and recruited. She had spent years folding herself small enough to survive in a world that dismissed her. And now she was being offered something dangerous. Trust. When she stepped out into the hallway, Grayson was waiting. Not in his study, not behind some desk, but leaning against the wall, arms folded, eyes tired but alert. His demeanor had shifted. No longer the impenetrable titan of industry. Tonight, he looked like a man who had seen the edge of the blade and realized how close it had come. You look better, he said. I feel sore, she replied, but better than dead. A flicker of a smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I meant what I said. The offer still stands, but I don't want you to feel pressured. Maya studied him for a moment. I don't do things halfway. If I say yes, I'll give it everything. That's exactly what I'm counting on. They walked together down the side corridor leading to the West Wing, an area usually off-limits to staff. Maya noticed how silent the house felt, as though the marble walls were holding their breath. The guests had long gone. The scent of gunpowder and shaken champagne still lingered faintly in the air. Jonas will have questions, Maya said. He didn't look thrilled when you defended me. Grayson glanced at her. Jonas manages optics. He doesn't always understand instinct. Instinct's not always popular. No, he agreed, but it saved my life. They entered a small control room, dimly lit and humming with soft mechanical sounds. A wall of screens showed real-time surveillance across the property. Jonas stood at the main terminal, scrolling through logs, clearly annoyed. He turned when they entered. Sir, we still don't have a visual match. Whoever the attacker was, he's not in our employee database. Disguise, most likely. Professional level. Grayson didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked at Maya. Can you tell from this footage where he entered? Maya stepped forward, eyes scanning the screens. Her posture changed subtly. Shoulders squared. Gaze sharp. She wasn't guessing. She was calculating. Here, she pointed, camera C7, that blind spot wasn't there earlier today. He disrupted the feed for a 5-second loop. Jonas frowned. You sure? I used to train teams to spot digital cam loops. That flicker right there is a splice. She leaned in closer. And here's another tell. He's limping on the left foot, favoring his right leg. Not noticeable at full speed, but on half-speed playback, it's clear. Probably a healed fracture or old injury. Grayson looked at Jonas. Get that matched with prior security incidents. Medical records if you can access them. Jonas hesitated. Are we trusting her now? Maya didn't blink. Grayson said calmly, Yes, we are. Jonas muttered something under his breath and turned back to the console. Maya caught it anyway. This'll come back to bite us. Grayson ignored him. Come on, he said to Maya. I want to show you something. They exited the control room and took the elevator to the upper floor. A hallway lined with old photographs led to a thick steel door that required both a keycard and a palm scan. What is this? Maya asked. My real office, Grayson replied. The one nobody knows about. Inside was a sleek, high-tech command center. Nothing like the grandiose opulence of his public spaces. Here, everything was stripped down to essentials. Secure servers, encrypted comms, and a large wall-mounted screen filled with project timelines. Grayson motioned toward the corner, where a glass case held a single item, an old scuffed dog tag. That was my brother's, he said. Army Ranger. Killed in action 10 years ago. I founded Vane Security because I swore I'd build something that could protect people like him and the ones they left behind. He turned to her. I think you know what it's like to lose faith in the system. I did too. That's why I want you here, not as a token, not as charity, but because you see what others don't. You act when others hesitate. Maya felt her throat tighten. No one had spoken to her like this in years, with respect, with gravity. Not since before her badge was stripped, before she was told her truth was too inconvenient for the agency to defend. She looked up at him. You said you'd give me clearance. What kind? Level 6 to start. After your evaluation, full spectrum, tactical, cyber, field. Field? Her eyebrows rose. I'm not asking you to just sit behind a desk, Maya. I'm asking you to lead. I have operations that need eyes like yours. Ears that still listen. People who've been overlooked. She nodded slowly. I'll need to read in on all internal threats. You'll get them. And I'll need my own team. You'll build it. A long pause settled between them. Finally, Maya exhaled, long and low. All right, I'm in. Grayson extended his hand. She hesitated, then shook it. His grip was firm but not dominating. It was real. You'll start tomorrow, he said. I want you reviewing every protocol in this house and every person who's had access in the last 6 months. If we've been infiltrated, I want to know how deep it goes. Maya nodded, a slow smile forming at the corner of her mouth. You're finally starting to sound like someone worth saving. Grayson smirked. And you're starting to sound like someone who's not just a maid. They left the command room and returned to the main floor. The sunrise began to creep through the tall windows, soft gold washing across the floor. For the first time in a long while, Maya walked not with quiet resignation, but with purpose. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. But tonight, she allowed herself something rare: hope. At precisely 6 a.m., Maya Williams stood alone in the central server room of Vane Security's private headquarters, a floor beneath the estate no one except high-clearance personnel even knew existed. The scent of ozone and metal hung in the air. The hum of machines was constant, like the soft breathing of something alive. She wasn't in a maid's uniform anymore. Black tactical slacks, a sleek gray blouse under a fitted jacket, and a biometric wrist pass now adorned her frame. Her bandaged shoulder was still sore, but her mind was razor-sharp. She was already reviewing hours of surveillance footage, one screen playing forward, another backward, a third split-screening different angles of the masked intruder's entrance and exit routes. Behind her, Grayson entered with a cup of coffee in each hand. You're early, he said. I didn't sleep, Maya replied, taking one without looking. I looped the footage all night. He knew exactly where the cameras were, and which security routines were on shift change. You think it was an inside job? I think it smells like one, Maya said. Or at least someone fed him intel. Too clean. Too fast. And there's one thing that keeps bothering me. She hit a key and zoomed in on a paused frame. The way he holds the blade. It's not casual. That's tactical training, military or paramilitary. Not just some disgruntled ex-employee or jealous competitor. Grayson squinted at the screen. You're telling me a trained killer got that close to me? At my launch? In my home? Maya nodded. And you're lucky he was sloppy. Sloppy? He got emotional. When he missed the first strike, he panicked. That's how I could take him down long enough to get the blade away. Grayson let out a long exhale. Jesus. You asked me to dig, Maya said. And I will. But before I can go wide, I need access to the company's old contracts. Any joint ventures, dissolved partnerships, military outsourcing, anyone with combat training and a grudge. I'll have Jonas open up the archives. Maya gave him a long look. You trust me with that? I trust that if I don't give you what you need, I won't survive the next attempt. There was no sarcasm in his tone, only hard truth. At 10:30 a.m., Maya sat across from Jonas Creed in the executive boardroom, a manila folder in front of her. Jonas looked like he'd slept in his suit. He was sipping a green smoothie like it was medicine, his eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. You're asking me to give full access to our most sensitive historical files to a housemaid who's worked here for 6 months, Jonas said slowly. No, Maya said. I'm not asking. Mr. Vane Island. Jonas gave a tight smile. You think saving his life gives you the right to overturn years of protocol? I think if someone planted a trained assassin inside your ballroom and you still care about protocol, you're not the person who should be managing this security division. Jonas leaned back. I've been at this company since before you were old enough to vote. Don't think for a second I don't know what loyalty looks like. Then maybe you should have noticed someone slipping through your perimeter last night, Maya said, calm but unblinking. Loyalty doesn't mean much if it's blind. For a second, it looked like Jonas might lash out, but he didn't. He just pushed the folder across the table. Fine, he said. But don't say I didn't warn you when this all goes sideways. Oh. Maya opened the folder. Inside were names. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Former contractors. Partner firms. Field agents. Special consultants. All tied to Vane Security. Over the past 15 years. She scanned quickly, making mental notes. Ex-military, private contractors, cyber specialists. Some names were redacted. Others were flagged with termination codes. Who flagged these red-level terminations? She asked. Mostly me, Jonas said. Dangerous people, not to be contacted. I'll be the judge of that, Maya replied. By noon, Maya had narrowed the list to 6 high-risk profiles with motive, means, and training. One name stood out. Colt Bronner, ex-Green Beret. Discharged for misconduct. Briefly hired by Vane Security 3 years ago before being dismissed under conflict of ethics. What does that mean? She muttered aloud. She pulled up the archived internal review file. Grayson had rejected Bronner's proposal for an aggressive, surveillance-heavy counterintelligence division that would have involved biometric tagging of employees without their consent. Bronner didn't take it well. Left under a cloud. And now? Now he was off-grid. No taxes, no licenses, no online footprint for 14 months. She tapped her earpiece. Grayson, I think I found our guy. His voice came back immediately. Talk to me. Colt Bronner, former field asset. Kicked from your team for going too far. Vicious, smart, and he's been in the wind for over a year. Why would he want me dead? Revenge? Ego? Or someone paid him? He wouldn't do this for free. Silence. Then, get me everything on him. Personal history, last known contacts. Start tracking financial anomalies. I'll authorize the backdoor access. Maya smiled faintly. Now you're thinking like me. That night, Grayson found Maya alone on the rooftop balcony. The lights of the city spread out below like a blanket of sparks. She was sipping tea, her eyes distant. Long day, he said. Longer one tomorrow, she replied. He sat beside her. I owe you more than I can say. You said thank you. That's more than most ever gave me. He looked at her for a long moment. I've been surrounded by people I trust, with data, with numbers, with projections, but not with instinct. That's what's been missing. She didn't reply immediately. Then she said, "It's hard to trust people who've been overlooked. We don't come with endorsements or spotless records. We come with bruises." Grayson nodded. "Sometimes the bruises are the proof." He reached into his coat and handed her a small black folder. Inside was a newly printed badge, her name, a new title. Field Operations Lead, Vane Security, Special Threat Division. Maya stared at it for a long second, then whispered, "That's a hell of a promotion. You earned it." She held it in her hands, the weight of it more emotional than physical. "I've been invisible for so long," she said. "I forgot what it felt like to be seen." Grayson stood. "The world's changing, Maya, and I need people who see before it's too late." She looked out over the city, the badge still in her hand. "Then we've got work to do." At 7:45 the next morning, Maya Williams stood in the center of a dimly lit operations chamber deep inside Vane Security's underground facility. She was no longer navigating through chains of command, she was leading one. The room buzzed with quiet intensity as 4 selected team members awaited her instructions, their faces lit by the glow of interface screens. She stepped forward, wearing a tactical navy jacket marked with her new clearance tag. Field Ops Lead, STD. Her voice was calm, composed, but firm. "Our target is Colt Bronner, former Green Beret, former Vane security operative, and currently off-grid. He's trained, well-connected, and he doesn't miss twice." Maya gestured to the monitor behind her. It displayed a timeline of Bronner's military career, followed by his short-lived tenure with Vane Security and a series of flagged events: missing personnel, a sabotage report, and the unexplained disappearance of an experimental drone unit in Nevada. Bronner didn't just walk away. He walked away with knowledge: internal protocols, backdoor codes, access routes. He's not just dangerous because of Hui Island, he's dangerous because we trained him. One of the analysts, a quiet but sharp young woman named Casey, raised her hand. "If he's this skilled, why would he go loud at a public event?" "That's messy." Maya nodded, because it wasn't just about the kill. It was about sending a message, to Grayson, maybe to all of us. She looked over at Hank, the surveillance expert. "I want you to focus on Bronner's last known connections. Go back 5 years. Friends, family, ex-unit, anyone he might still trust." "Already on it," Hank replied, typing rapidly. "Casey, you're with me. We're doing a cold trace on Bronner's movement from the gala night. He got in and out too smoothly. He had help, possibly someone inside." Casey frowned. "You think there's a mole?" "I think someone gave him access codes that should have been deactivated years ago. And that kind of mistake doesn't happen by accident." Maya stepped back from the board. "I'll give you 12 hours. I want a list of all current Vane staff who had security clearance during Bronner's tenure. Cross-match with last night's entry logs. We're not just hunting Bronner, we're exposing whoever opened the damn door." The room went quiet for a beat. Then, in near unison, the team returned to their stations. The hunt had begun. By midday, Maya sat alone at her new desk, the files spread before her like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Her shoulder throbbed from the wound, but she ignored it. Her fingers moved quickly across the digital interface as she sorted through Bronner's archived psych evaluations. The man was brilliant but unpredictable. During his assessment, he'd argued that most human lives were statistical margins, variables to be calculated, not protected. He believed emotional judgment got in the way of true security. "He's not a soldier," Maya muttered to herself. "He's a fanatic." "Oh." Just then, Casey entered, looking pale. "I found something," she said, voice tight. Maya stood. "What is it?" Casey handed her a tablet. "I pulled gate logs from the East Utility Access entrance, the one used only by maintenance. 4 employees accessed it last week. 3 checked out. 1 didn't." "Who?" "An entry under the name Marvin Lee. But Marvin Lee was terminated 9 months ago. His keycard should have been disabled." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Internal security breach. Reinstated clearance. Someone reauthorized him manually." Casey nodded. "And I traced the authorization back to an admin account recently used by Jonas Creed." Maya's stomach turned. Jonas. Later that afternoon, Maya requested a private meeting with Grayson. They met in the old library, where warm mahogany and bookshelves dulled the tension in the air. Grayson poured 2 glasses of water and offered one to her. "I know that look," he said. "What did you find?" Maya set the tablet in front of him. Jonas's credentials were used to reactivate Marvin Lee's keycard. That card was used at a restricted entrance a few days before the gala. Grayson blinked. "You think Jonas gave Bronner access?" "I'm saying his credentials did. And unless his laptop was hacked, which is possible but unlikely, it points to something far more dangerous." "Intentional collaboration." Maya nodded slowly. "I don't have hard proof yet, but if Jonas opened the door, we have a problem that runs deeper than a rogue attacker." Grayson leaned back in his chair, troubled. "Jonas has been with me since the beginning. 20 years. He built half our systems. And that's exactly why Bronner would need him," Maya said gently. "He's the only person who could give access without triggering flags." For a moment, Grayson looked genuinely lost, like a man questioning the ground under his feet. "Do you want me to confront him?" Maya asked. "No," Grayson said too quickly. Then more measured. "Not yet. Keep digging. Quietly. If Jonas is clean, I won't ruin his name over a hunch. But if he's not," Maya stood. "If he's not, I'll handle it." Grayson met her eyes. "That's what I'm afraid of." That night, Maya walked the halls of the estate alone, retracing the attacker's route. The walls held secrets. The shadows whispered of betrayal. She paused outside Jonas's office. It was empty, but a light glowed under the door. She checked her watch. 11:43 p.m. She pressed her ear gently to the wood. Voices. She couldn't make out the words, but she knew the tone. Low, urgent, fearful. She pulled back, stepped silently down the hallway, and tapped a note into her phone. "Jonas is hiding something." As she rounded the corner, her thoughts turned to Bronner again. Somewhere out there, a man who once wore the same badge now plotted something bigger, darker. And if Jonas was involved, then it wasn't just revenge. It was infiltration. It was rot from within, and Maya would not let it spread. Tomorrow, she would press harder, because the deeper she looked, the clearer the truth became. This wasn't about a failed assassination. This was about a war no one realized had already started. At dawn, Maya was already in the Situation Room. The air was crisp with cold precision, the overhead lights casting long shadows across the steel table. On the wall behind her, a massive screen displayed surveillance footage from the past 2 months. Every entrance, every restricted zone, every backdoor code usage was logged and color-coded. She hadn't slept. She didn't need to. Not when her gut was screaming. Jonas Creed, the man who'd built the foundation of Vane's security, the man who may now be helping destroy it. But instinct wasn't enough. She needed evidence. She needed clarity. And she needed it before Jonas caught wind of her suspicion. Casey entered, holding a data drive tight in her hand. Her hair was tied back hastily, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "I did what you asked. I cracked Jonas's backup terminal through his secondary device permissions. Got access to his archived logs." Maya turned from the screen. "What'd you find?" Casey plugged in the drive. A new screen blinked to life. "He's been communicating with someone outside the company using an encrypted messaging system buried in the diagnostic testing software. It's not traceable through standard Vane protocols." "Who's he talking to?" "That's the thing. The encryption's old-school military level 9 compression. But we managed to decrypt a few lines. Look at this." Text appeared on screen. Fragmented, but legible. Phase 1 complete. Package entered. Verify bloodline before extraction. My security lead compromised. She doesn't suspect yet. Maya's eyes froze on the word she. "That's me," she muttered. "I'm the compromised one." Casey hesitated. "You think he's been watching you since the attack?" Maya nodded slowly. "Not just watching. Studying. Maybe even planning around me. They didn't expect me to fight back. That changed everything." She leaned against the table, her breath tightening. This was bigger than a rogue killer. It was an organized operation. Coordinated, funded, purposeful. "What does verify bloodline mean?" Casey asked. "I don't know," Maya said, "but it's not good." A sudden buzz at the door. Hank poked his head in. "Maya, you're gonna want to see this." The elevator descended past the restricted floors until it opened into the deep server archive only accessible with dual clearance codes. Grayson joined her and Hank as they entered the chamber, where a series of security servers hummed with historical data. Hank pointed to the far wall. "I found a ghost code." "What kind of ghost?" Maya asked. "A legacy command line inserted years ago. It shouldn't be running anymore, but it's still pinging our network every 7 hours. Stealth loop, embedded beneath firewall check-ins." "Where's it pinging from?" "An offshore relay in the Canary Islands. The signal's weak, but it's real." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Bronner's running a listening post." Grayson looked uneasy. "We've been bleeding intel for months." Maya turned to Grayson. "Sir, this is a hostile intelligence operation, plain and simple. They've compromised at least one executive. And now we have external signal activity tied to a known threat. If we don't lock this down fast, everything, your tech, your people, it's all vulnerable." Grayson looked to Hank. "Can we sever the link?" "We can. But if we do it bluntly, they'll know we found them." Maya stepped in. "Don't cut it. Feed them false intel. We control the flow. We control the narrative. That buys us time." Grayson nodded slowly. "Do it." Later that afternoon, Maya sat across from Jonas Creed in the company's rooftop garden. A pristine, quiet place, where surveillance was limited by design. Her face was calm, measured. Jonas, on the other hand, looked wary. "You wanted to talk," he said, sipping from a ceramic mug. "Everything all right?" Maya leaned forward. "I know about Marvin Lee's card." Jonas's eyes flickered up. "I know it was reactivated using your credentials," she continued. "I know it opened the East Maintenance Wing 3 days before the gala. And I know the internal firewall's been leaking data to an offshore relay you built into our system years ago." A long pause. Then Jonas smiled faintly. "So you figured it out." Maya stayed still. "Why?" Jonas set his mug down, folding his hands. "Because this company doesn't deserve to survive." She blinked. "Excuse me? You think Grayson is some kind of hero?" "He made his fortune using military-grade surveillance systems on civilian networks. He got rich off fear, off war, off the backs of people like me, and like you, Maya." She stared at him. "You still chose to be part of it." "I believed in the mission, until I saw what it really was." His voice was calm, almost cold. "Do you know how many foreign governments have backdoors into this company's platforms? How many lives have been ruined by the tools we built?" Maya shook her head. "So your answer is what sell us out to people like Bronner? Try to kill Grayson?" "I didn't order the hit. That was Bronner's call. I gave him a way in, not a directive." "Which makes you complicit." Jonas leaned back. "He's not done, Maya. You stopped him once, but he's got another target. Someone closer. Someone you won't see coming." She stood. "You're under arrest." He raised an eyebrow. "Under what authority?" Maya pulled a small device from her jacket and pressed a button. A soft click. Then footsteps behind them. 2 Vane security agents stepped forward, weapons at the ready. "My authority," she said. Jonas didn't resist. He just smiled. "Good luck, Maya. You're going to need it." That night, Maya met Grayson in his office. The city lights glittered behind him like a restless ocean. "You were right," he said. "I didn't want to believe it. But Jonas, he was part of this rot." Maya nodded. "He gave Bronner access. And worse, he's still protecting something." Grayson looked up. "What did he mean about another target?" "I don't know yet," Maya said. "But we need to assume the attack isn't over. We need to treat Vane security like a breached system, every employee, every asset, under review." Grayson didn't argue. "Do whatever you need. No more hesitation." She paused. "There's one more thing." He met her gaze. "That encrypted message," Maya said. "The one about verifying bloodline? That's personal. It's not just about company secrets. It's about you." Grayson's face darkened, and Maya's voice lowered. "We need to find out what they think you are." Maya stood in the sub-level records room, lit only by the flicker of an aging fluorescent bulb overhead. All around her were rows of locked cabinets, their drawers labeled with alphanumeric codes from another decade. She exhaled slowly, one hand resting on the cold steel filing cabinet in front of her. This was where Grayson had told her to start. If someone's hunting me because of my bloodline, he'd said hours earlier, then we need to go back. Before Vane's security, before the wealth, before the war contracts. Back to the origin. She opened the first drawer, metal groaning in protest. Inside, hundreds of paper files lined up in meticulous order, many untouched for decades. These were not digital. These were never meant to be uploaded. The only place these documents existed was here, and they had Grayson Vane's father's name on them. Hours passed. Maya poured through file after file, building a timeline in her head. Franklin Vane Grayson's father had been a private defense contractor in the 1970s and early 80s, but not the type who merely sold equipment. He was part of a covert project known only by its code name, Project Helix. Government sealed. Black ink. No digital trace. But someone had annotated one of the files in the margin. Helix equals gene-based access protocols, military bloodline sequencing. Maya's breath caught. Oh my God. Project Helix wasn't just about defense. It was about DNA. She kept reading, piecing together fragments. The government had been experimenting with a security framework that could only be accessed by a specific lineage descendants of a chosen few. Genetic encryption. The ultimate lock and key. Grayson Vane wasn't just wealthy. He was the key. And someone knew. She stormed into Grayson's study just past midnight, the old documents in her arms. He was seated at the window, glass of scotch untouched on the table beside him. He turned as she entered, immediately sensing the urgency in her expression. You found something, he said. She laid the documents on the table. Your father was part of Project Helix. Grayson stiffened. I've heard that name before. I thought it was a failed Cold War experiment. It wasn't failed, Maya said. It was buried. Your father helped design a protocol DNA-based encryption for military-grade intel. The twist? The system only responds to blood descendants of the original architects. He sat up. You're saying I could be the last living access point? Exactly, she replied. That's why Bronner came for you. Not for revenge. For access. He or whoever is backing him thinks you hold the key to something left behind. Possibly weapons. Possibly intel. Either way, something that could rewrite the balance of power. Grayson rubbed his face, stunned. I thought all my father left me was debt and legacy lawsuits, not a backdoor to buried secrets. Well, Maya said, someone thinks you're more valuable alive than dead. Which means the hit at the gala may not have been a full assassination attempt. It may have been a botched extraction. Grayson swore under his breath. And Jonas? He asked. Maya nodded. He probably knew, or at least suspected. That encrypted message? Verify bloodline before extraction? That was the plan. Confirm you were the right heir, and then either kill you or use you. He stood, pacing. How do we prove any of this? I need access to the government's deep archive, Maya said. Unredacted Helix documents. But we'll never get it through official channels. Not with my history. Not without raising flags. I can get you into the Gibbon Institute, Grayson said after a beat. It's a private research facility, used to be government, affiliated. They bought up a lot of the decommissioned Cold War records when the administration purged them in the late 90s. Maya's eyes lit up. Perfect. Do they have on-site access? Yes, but you'll need a physical badge and an alias. Once you're inside, I'll find the link. If this bloodline access protocol still exists, if there's a Helix vault, it'll be documented there. Grayson crossed the room and opened a secured drawer in his desk. He handed her a sleek, unmarked ID card. Use my father's identity. They won't question it. Maya took it. I leave it down. The next morning, Maya stepped into the lobby of the Gibbon Institute, now operating under the quiet guise of a Civil Archives and Technology Preservation Trust. No signs, no tourists. Just white walls, white floors, and quiet tension. The receptionist glanced at her badge, scanned it, and offered a polite nod. Dr. Franklin Vane, we've been expecting the transfer request. Room B, 7, basement level. Maya didn't flinch. Thank you. As she descended into the lower levels, the hallways grew colder, more sterile. Rows of reinforced file cabinets lined the halls. Access pads blinked red. She reached room B7, swiped the badge, and stepped inside. Rows of boxes, labeled only by numeric codes. She moved quickly. Shelf 3, box 17B. She opened it and froze. Inside was a single photo, black and white. Grayson's father young, handsome, standing beside 3 other men, all in military uniform. One of them bore an uncanny resemblance to Bronner. Maya's fingers trembled. She flipped the photo. Project Helix 1900 in Odeon. Alpha Access Team. She dug deeper. A file. Partial printouts. One document stood out. Genetic Lock Deployment Protocol. Subject, ID, number G0211 vein. She read the paragraph 3 times. Her stomach sank. Grayson wasn't just a key. He was the only key left. The others, dead, eliminated. Incidents. The next page made her blood run cold. If key subject remains non-compliant, initiate surrogate protocol. Extract biological sample by any means necessary. Kidnapping, forced extraction, or worse. This was what Bronner wanted. This was what Jonas had enabled. And this was why they wouldn't stop. Back at Vane Security, Maya burst into Grayson's office. "They're coming for you again," she said. "They don't just want your access. They'll take your DNA if they have to. We have to move fast." Grayson pallid. "What are you suggesting?" "We need to fake your death." "What?" "Disappear you, now, before Bronner or whoever's backing him can make another move. We control the story. You vanish. They panic." Grayson looked at her, jaw clenched. "You think they'll stop?" "No," Maya said, "but it'll give us time, and I promise you once they think they've won, I'll be right behind them, and I will shut this whole operation down." For the first time, he nodded without protest, because now, he believed her. The game had changed, and Maya was no longer reacting. She was going on the offensive. The call came at 6:22 a.m. A male voice, calm but shaken, delivered the news to every major news outlet in New York. Billionaire tech mogul Grayson Vane, founder of Vane Security and architect of numerous high-profile defense contracts, was killed early this morning in a private plane crash en route to D.C. By 6:45, the story had spread to every corner of the country. By 7, flags flew at half-staff. By 7:30, stock markets were already reacting to the sudden vacuum of leadership at Vane Global Technologies. And by 8, Maya Williams stood in the shadows of an underground hangar in upstate New York, watching as the real Grayson Vane, dressed in a plain black hoodie and jeans, slipped into an armored vehicle bound for a hidden safe house. No cameras, no security detail, no headlines, just the silence of rebirth. The night before, Maya had moved quickly. After confirming that Bronner and his associates were monitoring Grayson's public movements through compromised satellite uplinks, she crafted a plan with chilling precision. Adetsoyet, falsified flight records, thermal mimicry, drone wreckage planted in a remote, inaccessible forest, the surrounding area doused with jet fuel and ignited before dawn. The press had eaten it up. FAA logs were clean. Even the coroner's report, pre-filled with plausible dental matches and DNA overlays, would corroborate it within 72 hours. Grayson Vane was, for all public purposes, gone. And Maya? She was now the only person alive who knew where he truly was. Later that morning, back at Vane Security, Maya walked into the executive command center, the room silent except for the occasional beep from a monitor or the muffled sound of a news anchor offering solemn condolences. Jonas Creed's old seat sat empty. Casey, now Maya's second in command, met her with a tight nod. Everyone bought it. Even Bronner's people. The Canary Island relay shut down minutes after the crash report went live. "They think they've won." "They haven't," Maya said. "They've just made their last move in the dark." She turned toward the screen behind them, which now displayed a fragmented dossier rebuilt from Gibbon Institute's archive files. The top portion was red-stamped, with a name Maya couldn't ignore. Dr. Elisa Kroll, a geneticist, former DARPA researcher. Reported missing 5 years ago. Believed dead until Maya found her signature on a classified memo tied to Project Helix's final phase. Casey pointed to the screen. "We found her?" "More than that," Maya said. "She's alive, working in private under a shell corporation in Eastern Virginia, Biotech Labs. W. Think she's the one running the DNA protocol? She's not just running it, Maya said. She created it. If Grayson's bloodline unlocks something, she's the one who knows where and how. Casey paused. You want to go after her? We have to, Maya said. She's the next key. That afternoon, Maya boarded a black transport van outfitted with surveillance-blocking tech and set course for Virginia. No entourage. No backup. Just herself and a sidearm holstered at her hip. She needed to move alone. Bronner's network was watching everything. If they caught wind of her next move, it would be over. As the miles slipped by, her thoughts turned inward. To the face of Jonas Creed, calm even in betrayal. To the chilling message, verify bloodline before extraction. To the buried programs that use DNA as a currency of control. Maya had fought wars overseas, but this was the most personal war of all. She wasn't just protecting Grayson. She was defending the very idea that people couldn't be owned by their blood. She arrived at the outskirts of a quiet, forested campus just after sunset. The biotech compound sat behind high fences and private security checkpoints. But Maya didn't go through the front. She hiked in from the west ridge, moving low under moonlight, scaling the side utility wall with precision born from years of training the government had once paid for, then tried to erase from her record. Inside the perimeter, she moved through shadows, tracking the lighted office near the north wing. A single occupant, long white coat, moving slowly between lab benches. Dr. Eliza Kroll. Maya waited until she could confirm no guards were on rotation nearby. Then, she stepped through the side entrance, bypassing the digital lock with an old analog key reader she'd rigged herself. 2 minutes later, she stood behind the scientist. Eliza, she said calmly, don't move. Doctor. Kroll jumped, nearly dropping the tablet in her hand. Who are you? The person who just faked Grayson Vane's death to protect him from what you helped create. The older woman paled, her skin going ghostly beneath the fluorescent lighting. Grayson, you mean, alive, Maya confirmed. And still a target, because of you. Kroll lowered the tablet slowly. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you, Maya said, stepping forward. You disappeared from DARPA with a government program and enough genetic data to start a war. Now I want answers. I didn't ask for this, Kroll said, voice shaking. I was forced. They blackmailed me into continuing the Helix protocol. Said if I didn't, my sister would disappear. I had no choice. Maya's eyes narrowed. Who are they? Kroll swallowed. A group within Helix. They call themselves the Second Horizon. Not government. Not foreign. Something in between. They've gone dark. Day, live, rogue. They believe controlling bloodlines means controlling the future. And they believe Grayson's the last authentic key, Maya said. Kroll nodded. Yes, they want his DNA to unlock the vault. What's in the vault? No one knows, Kroll whispered. Only the original architects. But they believe it's something that will let them control defense systems across every continent. Weapons, satellites, AI servers, all linked, all protected by Helix encryption. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. Grayson wasn't just the key to a vault. He was the key to global control. And now, even in his fake death, the clock was ticking. We're leaving, Maya said. You're coming with me. Kroll hesitated. They'll kill me. Not if I get to them first. Outside, the forest stirred. Maya turned her head. Footsteps. They weren't alone anymore. Maya spun toward the sound just as a figure stepped from the tree line, tall, broad, dressed in matte black tactical gear. A second emerged to the left, and then a third. No insignia, no lights. Just silent precision. Dr. Kroll gasped. They found me. Maya's mind moved faster than her pulse. The men weren't amateurs. Their triangle formation meant they'd been trained to corner and extract. Not to kill, at least. Not yet. Back wall, Maya whispered to Kroll. Move when I say. What? Now. Oh. Maya drew her sidearm and fired a single shot through the lab window. Glass shattered outward in a spray of crystal shards. The sound jolted the intruders, but only for a second. Go, she barked. Kroll scrambled toward the broken window, climbing over the sill with surprising speed. Maya fired 2 more controlled bursts, forcing the men into cover. Then she grabbed the scientist's satchel from the lab bench and dove through the opening. Gunfire erupted behind them, the ping of metal on glass sending a sharp ring through the night. Maya hit the ground in a roll, pulling Kroll with her. "Into the trees," she ordered. They sprinted into the undergrowth. Maya knew the compound's layout by heart now. She'd memorized the ridge route and where it curved back toward the road. But their pursuers were fast, barely 10 seconds behind. Kroll panted hard. "We won't make it. We'll buy time." They ducked behind a downed tree, and Maya pulled a small EMP device from her belt. She'd brought it in case of surveillance systems, not a manhunt, but it'd have to do. She triggered it, then threw it toward the path behind them. A high-pitched whine pulsed through the trees. The effect was instant. Their pursuers' radios crackled. Weapons dimmed. Sensors died. The forest went momentarily still. "Move," Maya said. 10 minutes later, they reached the old fire trail, where Maya had hidden her vehicle, a matte gray SUV rigged for silent ignition. She shoved Kroll inside and jumped behind the wheel, gravel spitting beneath the tires as they tore away. Only once they were on the highway did Maya let herself breathe. "They'll be tracking us," Kroll said. "They always do." Maya didn't look at her. Back at the Vane security safe house in Westchester, Maya stood in the debriefing room, sweat drying against her neck. Kroll sat across the table, sipping hot tea with shaking hands. Grayson, very much alive and very much focused, leaned forward. "I need you to walk us through everything," he said. "From the beginning. What is the vault?" Kroll stared at her cup. "I only know parts. They compartmentalized everything. Project Helix was designed to create a biometric encryption system so secure it would only respond to specific genetic markers, bloodlines from what they called the origin set. Your father was one of those. So were 3 others." Grayson nodded. "We found a photo. Then you know the system doesn't recognize passwords or keycards," Kroll continued. "Only DNA, specifically, active DNA sequences that remain viable under biometric sampling. Over time, the others died off. Grayson, you're the last." Maya folded her arms. "What does the vault hold?" "Information, technology, location keys to dormant weapon systems developed during the Cold War. Some of them never should have existed." Grayson's voice lowered. "So the Second Horizon wants access." Kroll nodded. "With what's inside, they could destabilize entire governments, override defense satellites, even disable missile shields. The vault was meant to be insurance. Now, it's a threat." Maya leaned in. "Where is it?" Kroll hesitated. "I don't know exactly. But I have a map fragment. Encoded. I was forced to finish the algorithm before I escaped. They never got the final key from me." She reached into her satchel and retrieved a small flash drive wrapped in layers of copper mesh anti-surveillance material. "This is the last piece," she said. "It's how they'll find the vault." Grayson took it, turning it over slowly. "They'll never stop," Kroll said. "Even with the fake death, they'll keep coming until they have you." Maya met Grayson's eyes. "Then it's time we go to them first." That night, while Grayson rested in the upper level of the safe house, Maya sat alone in the command room, reviewing footage from the biotech escape. She watched frame by frame as the operatives entered the lab. Then something strange caught her eye. One of the men, taller, leaner, turned toward the security camera just before it blacked out. For less than a second, the face was visible, and Maya recognized him. Colt Bronner, still alive, still operating. But what caught her attention most wasn't his presence. It was the patch on his vest. A black circle, with an abstract silver glyph, like a twisted helix spiral. The symbol of the Second Horizon. She enhanced the frame and saved it. Then she opened a comm line to Casey. "We've got confirmation," she said. Bronner was at the lab. "He's not just a rogue asset. He's leading this. Do we make a move?" "Not yet. I need you to scrub all traces of Dr. Kroll's presence from our systems. No one outside this room knows she's alive, not even internal security." "Done," Casey replied. "What next?" Maya stared at the frozen image on the screen. "We find where that symbol leads. We track every piece of data connected to it: offshore banks, defunct corporations, sleeper shell accounts. If the Second Horizon is preparing to use Grayson's DNA, They'll need a staging point. Understood. And Casey? Yeah? Start prepping Grayson, because next time they come for him. Maya's voice went cold. We're going to be waiting. In the darkness above, Grayson stood at the stairwell just out of sight. He'd heard everything, the fear, the strategy, and the fury in Maya's voice. He wasn't just a businessman anymore. He was the final thread in a bloodline war decades in the making. And he was tired of hiding. The vault wasn't going to stay buried forever. Neither would the truth. A storm rolled in just before dawn. Heavy clouds swelled above the Hudson, thunder growling like a warning deep in the bones of the city. Inside the Westchester safe house, Maya stood in the center of the Situation Room, watching a digital map ripple across the main screen. The map wasn't geographic, it was financial. A global web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and asset movement. Lines darted across Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, the Baltics, but all roads eventually converged on one place. Bruges, Casey muttered beside her, eyes scanning the latest overlays. An old tech incubator that went dark 3 years ago. No exports, no patents, no legal presence, but there's still satellite activity. Someone's funding it. Maya narrowed her gaze. You think it's Second Horizon's operating base? I think it's where they're going to decrypt the vault algorithm. Kroll said they needed multiple secure cores. Bruges has access to legacy EU servers, black fiber optics, and former NATO tunnels beneath the city. It's perfect. Grayson entered, dressed in black tactical gear, not designer. For once, he didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a man ready to go to war. Is it time? He asked. Maya turned to him. If we wait, they'll crack the map Kroll gave us. We lose the vault. And maybe the world loses more than that. He didn't blink. Then let's move. By nightfall, the team was airborne in a private military-grade jet stripped of any vain insignias. Maya, Grayson, Casey, and 2 hand-picked security operatives, former intelligence, loyal to Maya, not the company. No press, no digital logs. As the jet cut through the clouds over the Atlantic, Maya sat across from Grayson, both silent for a while. Finally, he spoke. You're risking everything. You don't even know what's inside that vault. She looked at him. I don't need to know. I just know they want it bad enough to kill you for it. And that means it shouldn't be theirs. Grayson leaned back. When I was young, my father used to tell me some legacies were buried for a reason. I never understood why he sounded afraid. Because he knew what they built, Maya said, and he knew one day it would come back. He glanced at her. Why did you really come back, Maya? You could have walked away after the gala. She hesitated, then replied. Because I've spent half my life fighting someone else's wars. Watching innocent people get erased by power and money. This time, it's different. This time I can stop it. He nodded, and then said, quietly, You remind me of my mother. Maya blinked. She was a fighter, not with fists, with truth. Wouldn't let anyone tell her what her place was. You'd have liked her. No. Maya looked away, the emotion tightening behind her ribs. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. The silence between them was understood. Bruges was wet and wind-lashed when they arrived just after midnight. The team approached the abandoned tech hub on foot, dressed in local attire, gear hidden beneath heavy coats. Casey, watching her tablet, whispered, The encryption cores located beneath the southern tower. Only one way in a vent shaft, just off the canal. Maya gave orders fast, crisp. Hank, cover the west entrance. Casey, you and Grayson stick close. I'll lead. If I give the signal, you pull out. No questions. They reached the shaft within minutes. Maya went in first, crawling through narrow metal in total darkness. Her breath was steady, her muscles tight. Every foot forward was another second closer to answers or an ambush. Finally, the duct opened into a dimly lit server room humming with energy. Maya lowered herself silently, scanned the room. 2 guards, armed, speaking French quietly. She took them out without a sound, one swift chokehold, one disarmed pistol strike to the temple. Then she waved the others in. Grayson dropped beside her, his eyes widening at the sight of the room. Dozens of quantum processors linked together, feeding a central algorithm on a protected screen. On that screen, an animation played in slow motion, an evolving DNA helix aligning with a digital vault lock. Maya stepped forward and froze. Bronner was standing on the other side of the room. Calm, waiting. I wondered how long it would take, he said. His voice was deeper than she remembered, but his eyes cold, calculating hadn't changed. Maya raised her weapon. Step away from the console. He smiled. Still playing hero. I missed that. Grayson stepped forward, furious. You tried to kill me. Bronner looked almost bored. I tried to access a system that only your body can unlock. Your death was optional. You betrayed everything we built, Grayson said. Because it was built on a lie, Bronner's voice cracked. Your father, your legacy. Do you really think he was the good guy? The vault holds more than weapons. It holds proof of what was done, what was hidden, and who paid the price. Maya's grip tightened. You don't want justice. You want power. I want truth, he growled. And if I have to tear the world apart to find it, so be it. He hit a switch. Alarms began to blare. The vault protocol began to count down. 30 seconds until full alignment. The computer chirped. Maya fired. Bronner ducked and ran. Grayson chased after him, but Maya called out, "Let him go." She turned to the console, hands flying over controls. If this completes, they get access anywhere in the world. We shut it down now. Casey joined her. We can overload the system. Grayson returned, winded. What happens if we destroy it? Maya stared at the screen. Then no one ever uses this again. Not them, not us. Grayson stepped forward. Do it. They entered the override. The room began to spark. The servers glowed red hot. Then, everything went dark. Silence. An hour later, they emerged from the tunnels. The core was gone. Destroyed. And the vault? Still out there undiscovered. For now, back at their temporary safe house in Bruges, Grayson sat in silence, watching Maya bandage her wrist. We'll never know what was inside, he said. No, she replied, but we know what could have happened if they had it. He looked at her. So, what now? She met his eyes. Now we find the rest of them. And with that, she turned toward the rising Sunday. It had been 4 days since the destruction of the server core in Bruges. The world moved on as if nothing had happened. There were no headlines, no investigations, no questions about the facility that went up in smoke in the middle of the night. The second horizon was silent, too silent. Maya knew better. They weren't retreating. They were recalibrating. Inside a modest townhouse in Antwerp, temporarily repurposed as a secure base, Maya stood at the small kitchen window, staring into the cobblestone street below. Grayson sat at the dining table, laptop open, reviewing dossiers. Dr. Kroll, pale but focused, sorted files by candlelight. Power outages had become routine ever since Maya began rerouting their electronic footprint every 12 hours. This isn't over, Maya muttered, more to herself than anyone. Grayson glanced up. We destroyed the vault access. What else do they want? Maya turned to face him. It was never just about the vault. That was a tool. What they really want is influence, control through chaos, disinformation, deception. Helix was their skeleton key. Now they'll look for a new door. Kroll leaned forward. Then we need to find out where they're regrouping. We can't fight smoke, Grayson said. We need a name, a place. Maya nodded. And I think I know where to look. She pulled a weathered black notebook from her bag, the one she'd taken from Bronner's personal locker back in New York, just before the fake crash. At the time, it seemed like a trophy. Now, it might be their last breadcrumb. She flipped through the pages. Most were empty, but about halfway through, one page had a scrawled phrase written in sharp, angry handwriting. The wall remains. Lisbon. Beneath it, a list of dates. Coordinates. Random at first glance, but to Maya, it screamed field ops. What's the wall? Grayson asked. It was an old intelligence term, Maya said, her voice taking on a lower register. A Cold War site in Lisbon where NATO and Allied agents met to hand off encrypted information. It was shut down after the Berlin Wall fell. Or so we thought. Kroll whispered, if the second horizon is reviving it, they're using it as a meeting point, off-grid, face-to-face. Maya's mind was already racing ahead. It's the one place Bronner wouldn't have written down unless he trusted no one else knew it still existed. Grayson stood, Then that's where we go next. They arrived in Lisbon 2 nights later under the cover of heavy rain. The city, still lit by the soft golden glow of street lamps, seemed to hold its breath as Maya navigated the narrow alleys of the old quarter. Somewhere beneath these winding roads was a place forgotten by history but remembered by ghosts. Kroll stayed behind with Casey in a rented flat 3 blocks from the target. Maya and Grayson, dressed like locals, made their way to the oldest metro station abandoned and buried beneath layers of reconstruction. They descended through a service hatch, then into a derelict maintenance shaft that smelled of dust, rust, and time. At the end of a narrow corridor, Maya saw it. An iron door corroded, chained shut with an ancient padlock. No markings, no signs. But above it, on the crumbling concrete wall, someone had spray-painted a fresh symbol, a black spiral, the emblem of the second horizon. She turned to Grayson. "They've been here recently." He nodded. "You think they're still inside?" "We'll find out." She picked the lock with practiced precision, then slowly pushed the door open. It groaned on its hinges, revealing a massive underground chamber once a train platform, now gutted and converted into what looked like a surveillance hub. Old radio equipment, paper maps, faded military blueprints, and along one entire wall, names. Hundreds of names, written in chalk, some crossed out, some circled. Maya stepped closer. Each name was tied to a city, a date, and a single word: verified. She scanned until her eyes landed on one line: Vanna Grayson, New York, verified. Grayson froze beside her. "What is this?" he asked. "This is the list," Maya whispered. "The origin set descendants, bloodlines. They've been tracking them. And killing them," Grayson said, gesturing to the crossed-out names. She found another name, circled twice in red. Anderson, Micah, Atlanta, unverified. Maya's breath caught. Micah Anderson was a name she hadn't heard in over a decade. He was her former commanding officer, and one of the only men who ever truly believed in her, even when the system didn't. "I need to find him," she said. "If he's on this list, they might come for him next." Grayson stepped back, scanning the chalk wall again. "Wait, look at this." Another line, barely visible. "Kroll, Eliza, classified, do not approach." Maya's heart dropped. "They didn't kill her because they needed her," she said. "But if they think she's compromised, they'll come for her next," Grayson finished grimly. Maya turned on her comms. "Casey, lock down the Lisbon flat. Get Kroll into deep cover. Now." "Copy." On it, Grayson looked around the chamber, tension rising. "We need to torch this place. Erase everything." Maya hesitated, then nodded. No trace, no list, no wall. They poured accelerant across the floor and lit the flame. As the room erupted behind them, Maya looked back at the chalk names vanishing into smoke. So many lives erased by bloodlines they didn't ask for. "From now on," she said, "we choose who we are, not our DNA." They vanished into the night, the fire lighting up the Lisbon sky behind them. The war wasn't over, but the board had been cleared, and Maya was finally playing offense. The flight to Atlanta was uneventful, but Maya's mind raced the entire way. Micah Anderson. That name hadn't surfaced in years. He was a phantom from her past, more mentor than superior. A man whose unwavering moral compass nearly cost him everything in a system that punished honesty. Maya remembered his voice, deep and patient, saying the words that had stayed with her through war zones and betrayals. "Don't let them tell you you're only what they see." Now he was marked, unverified, but watched. That meant they hadn't found him yet. As the plane touched down under overcast skies, Maya turned to Grayson. "We stay off the grid here. No phones, no digital trails. We're not just looking for Micah, we're walking into a trap." Grayson nodded, his face drawn but resolute. "You think Bronner will be here?" "I think Bronner's always one step ahead, but this time, I intend to change that." Micah lived on the edge of the city in a modest, weather-beaten house surrounded by tall oak trees and quiet fields. It was the kind of place men chose when they were tired of being found. There were no digital records of him since 2014. No social media. No property in his name. But Maya knew the way. She had memorized it long ago. They parked the car a mile down the road and approached on foot. No dogs barked, no lights flickered. It was eerily still. Maya raised her hand. signaling Grayson to wait behind the tree line. She approached the house and knocked once, twice, then a third time in a coded rhythm only two people in the world would recognize. A long pause. Then the door creaked open. Micah stood there, taller than she remembered, grayer around the temples but just as sharp-eyed. "Maya," he said, his voice a mix of disbelief and calm. "Well, hell." She allowed herself a tight smile. "Still alive? Old man?" He stepped aside to let her in. Just stubborn. The inside of the house was a fortress of analog. No screens. No visible cameras. Just paper files, ham radios, and military plaques lining the walls. Micah poured coffee without asking and handed it to her like nothing had changed. "You didn't come here for nostalgia," he said. She handed him a photo from the chalk wall in Lisbon. His name, the date, the unverified mark in red ink. His face didn't move. "I figured they'd find me eventually," he said. "You knew?" "I didn't know it was Horizon, but I knew something was building." He looked at her. "They killed Darby last year, made it look like a heart attack. But I knew better. We both served under Lieutenant Gable. That man wasn't dying anytime soon. Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I did," he said. "Nobody listened. So I disappeared." Maya nodded, absorbing the weight of it. "We think you might be the last living person who has partial knowledge of the vault's original architects. That makes you a target." Grayson stepped into the room now, and Micah eyed him carefully. "You must be the billionaire they want dead." "Recently deceased," Grayson said dryly. Micah grunted. "Good. Death's a useful advantage when people want you gone." They sat at the kitchen table. Maya laid out the full picture. The attack at the gala, the fake crash, Kroll's revelations, the destroyed core in Bruges, and the chalk wall of names. Micah listened in silence, occasionally nodding, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. When she finished, he leaned back. "So they're not after a vault anymore. They're after control narrative, bloodlines, erasure. They want to rewrite history through manipulation," Grayson said, "and they're using legacy secrets to do it." Micah stood and crossed to an old filing cabinet. From it, he pulled a manila folder and slid it across the table. Inside were hand-drawn maps, correspondence copies from 1987, and a black-and-white photo of a meeting in Geneva, 4 men, including Grayson's father. Maya leaned closer. "Who's this?" she asked, pointing to the man on the far left. He wore a military uniform with no visible insignia. Micah tapped the photo. "That's Alan Price, the ghost." "Never heard of him," Grayson said. "No one has. He was never supposed to exist. Ran covert operations so deep they burned all records. But he wasn't just a soldier. He was a strategist. He believed one day the world would collapse under the weight of its own information." "What happened to him?" Maya asked. "Last I heard, he went underground. Some believe he became the architect of Horizon's early structure. If he's alive." Micah trailed off, then looked Maya dead in the eye. "He's not just their founder, he's their god." Maya clenched her jaw. "Then we find him." Micah smiled grimly. "You'll need help." Are you in?" she asked. He finished his coffee. "Hell yes." Later that night, as they prepared to leave, Maya stepped outside for air. Grayson joined her, standing in the moonlight. "You trust him?" he asked. "With my life," she said simply. "Good," Grayson replied, "because we're running out of people we can." They stood in silence, watching the trees sway gently in the wind. Then a noise soft at first, then louder. A drone. Maya's head snapped upward. The whirring grew. A flicker of red light pulsed from above. "Incoming!" she shouted, pushing Grayson behind the car. A second later, the device exploded mid-air just above the tree line. The concussive wave knocked them both to the ground. Micah stormed out, weapon drawn. "EMP drone," Maya gasped, sitting up. "They know we're here." "How?" Micah growled. "They've been tracking Grayson's DNA by airborne particles," Maya said. "Nanotech trace level." Grayson wiped blood from his brow. "Then they know exactly who survived the crash." Maya stood, her voice suddenly razor-sharp. "This isn't just surveillance anymore. This is a hunt." Micah loaded his rifle. "Then let's turn the hunters into the hunted." The air inside the armored van was tense as steel, humming with urgency, and the low vibration of tires over Georgia asphalt. Maya sat behind the wheel, eyes laser-focused on the road. Micah rode shotgun, rifle broken down in a duffel at his feet. Grayson and Casey were in the back, reviewing the floor plans of a compound they weren't sure still existed. "This is suicide," Casey muttered, shaking her head. "We're going after a man who technically doesn't exist, inside a facility that probably shouldn't, based on intel that's at least 10 years stale. We don't have a choice," Maya said. "If Price is the founder of Horizon and if he's still alive, then he knows what comes next." Micah leaned forward, voice low. "He built the ideology they're using. Erase history. Rebuild it under a controlled truth. If we don't stop him, they'll do it in broad daylight." Casey rubbed her temples. "And how do we even get close to this guy?" Grayson closed the laptop and spoke for the first time in an hour. "We bait him." Maya glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "How?" Grayson leaned forward. "We leak the last known algorithm key, the one we destroyed in Bruges, but we make it look like we're trying to rebuild it and failing." Micah nodded slowly. "That'll trigger them. If Price is truly overseeing Horizon, he won't let someone else gain control of the Helix code, especially not us." "Exactly," Grayson said. "He'll reach out. Or send someone." Maya changed lanes, scanning the horizon ahead, and when he does, we trace it back to wherever he's hiding. The trap was set 36 hours later. Using a scrambled signal routed through 6 dead networks, Casey uploaded a fragment of manipulated Helix code to a dark repository known to be monitored by former Horizon affiliates. The metadata made it appear as though Grayson himself had attempted to reconstruct the vault algorithm with just enough mistakes to make it look real but incomplete. Then they waited. 7 hours passed. Then 12. Then, a ping. The signal came from northern Utah, an abandoned NSA listening post on a mountain ridge that had been offline since 2001 officially. Unmarked drones had landed there within the last 48 hours. Casey stared at the satellite feed. "We got him." Maya stood. "Let's move." The terrain in Utah was a different world, rocky, cold, barren, like something stripped of time. They left the van 2 miles from the target and hiked the rest of the way under nightfall. The facility loomed ahead, embedded into the mountainside like a hidden scar. No perimeter lights, no guards in sight. Maya crouched behind a boulder and studied the entrance through night vision binoculars. One visible camera, likely decoy. Thermal reads 6 active heat signatures inside. Small staff. Micah checked the breach gear. Standard surveillance layout. Old school. He's hiding, not broadcasting. They approached silently. Maya bypassed the keypad with a portable decryption unit. The door hissed open, and they slipped inside. The interior was a relic dust-covered consoles, peeling paint, outdated electronics. But deeper inside, the technology was anything but old. Fiber optic lines, liquid-cooled cores, private servers with biometric access pads. And in the center of it all, standing like a shadow risen from history, was Alan Price. He was tall, lean, sharp as a blade dulled only slightly by age, hair gone gray, face carved with time. But the eyes, those eyes were cold, calculating, alive. "I've been expecting you," he said calmly. Grayson stepped forward. "You're real." Price smiled faintly. "Unfortunately for you." Maya raised her weapon. "You're under no official jurisdiction, Price. You've evaded every international regulation. But we know everything. The vault. The bloodline targeting. The rewritten records." Price didn't flinch. "Then you know what I know. Control is survival. Chaos, left unchecked, devours civilizations. I'm not here to destroy truth. I'm here to curate it. By killing people," Grayson spat. "By erasing history and replacing it with your own." "History," Price said evenly, "is written by those who act when others hesitate." Micah growled, stepping forward. "You were a soldier once. What happened to duty?" Price looked at him. "I outgrew obedience." Suddenly, a shot rang out. A bullet struck the wall inches from Maya's head. Security operatives poured into the room, black gear, silent weapons. Maya ducked behind a console, returning fire. Casey pulled Grayson into cover, while Micah laid down suppression rounds. Price moved with eerie calm toward an escape corridor. "Cover me," Maya shouted, darting after him. She chased him through the narrow tunnels beneath the complex, their footfalls echoing off metal walls. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off bulkheads. Price moved fast, but Maya was faster. She tackled him just outside the generator room. They hit the ground hard, struggling for control. "You think this ends with me?" Price hissed. "You think cutting off the head kills the idea?" "No," Maya growled, wrestling his wrist into a lock. "But it's a damn good start." She slammed him against the wall, cuffing him before he could resist further. Behind her, Grayson and Micah appeared, guns raised. Casey followed, breathless. Price, blood on his lip, looked at them all and said with a twisted grin, "You'll regret stopping this." Maya leaned in. "Not as much as you'll regret starting it." Back at the secure compound later that night, Maya stood on the balcony, staring into the desert stars. Price was in custody, silent, but breathing. The remnants of his network were still scattered, but without him, it would begin to splinter. Grayson joined her, 2 glasses of bourbon in hand. He handed her one. "We got him," he said. She nodded. "Yeah, but?" She hesitated. "He's right about one thing. The ideology doesn't die with him. There are others. Followers. People who believe in what he built." "Then we'll stop them too," Grayson said, one by one. Maya looked at him. "You still want to go public?" he asked. She didn't answer for a long time. Then, "Yes. But not with everything. Just enough to remind the world that silence is complicity. That we're watching now. Men." He raised his glass. "To the truth." Maya raised hers. "To those who fight for it even when no one's watching." They drank, not in celebration, but in remembrance. The war was far from over. But tonight, they had won a battle. And that was enough. 3 days had passed since Alan Price was taken into custody. The desert air had cooled, but Maya felt no relief. She had seen this pattern before capture the figurehead. The system adapts. The ideology metastasizes. Just because the king was gone didn't mean the kingdom had fallen. In a secured federal facility on the outskirts of Colorado Springs, Price sat in solitary confinement, 24-hour surveillance, bio-tracking, 2 floors below ground, no comms, no contact. Yet Maya didn't trust it. She stood in the observation room now, behind a one-way mirror, watching him. He sat still, barely blinking, breathing slowly, like a man who had planned for every moment, even this. Micah joined her, arms folded. "He hasn't said a word. He doesn't need to," Maya replied. "He's waiting for someone else to make the first move." "You think he's triggered a failsafe?" "I think Horizon's never been about one man. He's not the engine, he's the architect. And someone else is keeping the lights on." Micah exhaled through his nose. "Then we need to smoke them out." Maya's jaw tightened. "We already did, and they're coming." Back at the safe house, Casey was tracking anomalies across global networks. Data surges, access attempts, pingbacks, all subtle, all encrypted. But something caught her eye. "Guys," she called, pointing at her monitor. "We've got a signature." Grayson looked up from across the room. "From where?" "Jakarta. A secure financial exchange used by multi-state corporations and ghost funds. Someone just moved $20 million in under 14 seconds, split across 7 shell accounts." Maya stepped in. "Clean?" "Too clean," Casey said. "It has the same packet sequencing Horizon used to scrub their activity back in Bruges. This isn't a new player. This is them. Trying to reposition," Grayson said. "Or to extract someone," Maya added. They all looked at each other. "Price?" Micah asked. "No," Maya said slowly. "He's a martyr now. They'll use him to inspire loyalty. But they'll never risk freeing him. The real asset they need is Kroll." Grayson frowned. "Eliza?" Maya nodded. "She's the last person alive who worked on Helix and has access to the DNA index keys. They kept her alive for a reason, and if we don't move now, they'll take her." Kroll had been relocated to a medical research facility in Zurich under heavy surveillance, but not military protection. The agency overseeing her security had insisted on discretion. Maya now saw that as a mistake. They arrived in Zurich 12 hours later. Snow clung to the rooftops, and the Alps loomed like sleeping giants in the distance. Maya hated how peaceful it looked, how it gave the illusion that nothing could go wrong. They approached the facility with forged identities, Maya and Grayson as international legal consultants, Micah as an investigator for the UN. Casey stayed behind to monitor air traffic and comms. Inside, they found Kroll in a private recovery suite, pale, thinner, but alert. She recognized them instantly. "I told them you'd come," she said with a small smile. Maya sat beside her. "You're not safe here." "They said I was under protection," Kroll replied, though her voice betrayed doubt. "They lied," Micah said simply. Grayson stepped closer. "We think Horizon is still operational. They're shifting strategies, and you're still valuable." Kroll took a deep breath. "They don't just want me for access. They want me to replicate." "Replicate what?" Maya asked. "Helixstoi, 0. Kroll said, her voice low. "A more efficient algorithm. Faster lineage tracing. Fewer ethical locks." Grayson muttered, "God help us." "Have they contacted you?" Maya pressed. "No, but I felt the pressure. Random people at the hospital asking strange questions. A nurse who took a vial of my blood without signing into the log. I stopped sleeping 4 days ago." "Then we're getting you out," Maya said. Kroll shook her head. "They'll find me anywhere." "Nah. Then we make them think you're dead," Micah said. That night, they staged the extraction. Using thermal disruptors and a faked medical report, they created the illusion that Kroll had suffered a fatal stroke. Casey doctored the electronic files, scrubbed the biometrics, and uploaded a fabricated death certificate to the international registry. At 2:41 a.m., Maya and Grayson wheeled Kroll out through the service corridor in a body bag marked for medical transport. It was quiet. Too quiet. As they reached the garage, Maya's instincts flared. She raised her hand, silently halting the team. Then a faint click, a pressure sensor, floor-mounted. "They're here," she whispered. From the shadows, figures emerged. 3 men, armed, no insignias. Their weapons were silenced, but their intent was loud and clear. Maya pushed the gurney aside and dove left. Gunfire erupted, sharp and sudden. Micah returned fire from behind a vehicle. Grayson covered Kroll, dragging her behind the transport truck. One attacker closed in on Maya. She lunged, grabbing his wrist mid-swing and twisting hard. His elbow snapped with a sickening pop. She disarmed him and flipped him into a wall with the force of someone trained to end things quickly. Grayson took down a second with a clean shot to the thigh, then another to the chest. Micah finished the last one with a precision shot through the visor. Silence returned. They checked the attackers, no tags, no prints, no ID. Ghosts. "This was an extraction unit," Maya said. "They weren't here to kill Kroll. They were here to take her." "They came prepared," Micah muttered. "Not prepared enough," Grayson said, helping Kroll to her feet. Kroll stared at the bodies, then at Maya. "You were right. They're not done. Not by a long shot." Maya nodded grimly. "Which means neither are we." Back on the plane to New York, Maya sat alone at the rear of the cabin. The city lights were still hours away, but her thoughts were already there, racing ahead, calculating the next move. Price was in a cell, but the ideology had escaped, and somewhere out there, someone was already building what came next. She looked out into the night sky, whispered under her breath, "Not again. Not on my watch." Because if there was one thing she'd learned, it was this. Justice wasn't a moment, it was a mission. The winter wind in Manhattan carried a bite, slicing between buildings like a silent blade. From the rooftop of a private high-rise in Midtown, Maya stared out over the city that had buried too many secrets and too many names. Below her, traffic buzzed, horns blared, and life moved as if the world hadn't almost shifted into another dark chapter. Inside the penthouse behind her, the team had gathered around a glowing table-sized monitor. Casey had decrypted the hard drive recovered from one of the attackers in Zurich, an unexpected prize. What they found sent a chill through the room. "This isn't just about Horizon anymore," Casey said, zooming into a detailed schematic. "It's a new program. Something called Aether." Grayson folded his arms. "Sounds like another acronym." "It's not." Micah muttered. It's worse. Aether was what ancient philosophers believed filled the heavens, the invisible force holding the world together. Poetic, Maya said bitterly. What does this one do? Casey tapped a blinking file tree. From what I can tell, it's a next-gen synthetic behavioral protocol, real-time emotional manipulation. Imagine a digital ecosystem that doesn't just feed you what you want, it teaches you what to want, changes how you feel, how you vote, what you believe. A propaganda engine on steroids, Grayson whispered. Worse, Casey said. It learns faster than any algorithm we've seen. This isn't designed to sway the masses slowly. It's meant to flip entire populations overnight. Micah rubbed his jaw. Do we know who's running it? Casey hesitated, then brought up a blurred surveillance photo. A woman, early 50s, sharp, angular features, wearing a gray coat with a scar trailing from her ear to her collarbone. Name Saria Voss, Casey said. Former Mi-6, went rogue in 2012. Allegedly dead in a boating accident near Gibraltar. But the Zurich data shows she's not just alive, she's running Aether. Maya leaned in. Price's replacement. Maybe, Micah said. Or maybe the real mind behind it all. Casey clicked again, bringing up an image of a location. A corporate tower in Oslo, Norway. The headquarters of a biotech firm called Novosk, she explained. Front company, but their servers match Aether's fingerprint. Voss is either there or routing through it. Grayson narrowed his eyes. Then we go to Oslo. No. 48 hours later, under cover of darkness and icy rain, the team landed in Norway. Novosk's headquarters stood like a glass monolith in the city's financial district, fortified with biometric locks, armed security, and zero visibility into internal operations. They rented a small flat overlooking the rear of the building. Casey had set up a makeshift command center, while Maya, Micah, and Grayson prepped for infiltration. This one's not brute force, Maya warned. They'll be expecting an attack. We go surgical. Grayson nodded. How do we get inside? Micah unfolded a blueprint. Sub-basement utility entrance. Tied into an old waterway system under the city. No digital signature. Completely analog. Just the way we like it, Maya said. That night, under the cover of street fog and heavy coats, they made their way through the ancient stone tunnels beneath Oslo. The smell of wet brick and metal filled their lungs. Rats skittered. Water dripped like a metronome of time. At the access door, Maya worked her magic. Within seconds, the lock clicked open. They entered the belly of the building. Inside, Novosk was nothing like its sterile exterior. The underground floors were a labyrinth of dark labs, humming servers, and long corridors bathed in cold fluorescent light. Maya moved like a phantom, disabling cameras and motion sensors. Grayson followed close, eyes sharp. Micah covered the rear. They reached a mainframe room. Casey's voice came through the comms. That's it. Plug me in. Grayson slid a secure transmitter into the port. Casey began to siphon data from half a world away. I'm in, she said, pulling names, blueprints, funding. Wait. Static. Casey? Maya whispered. A second of silence. Then, they knew we were coming. Lights flared. Doors slammed. An alarm pierced the stillness. Maya swore. Extraction Plan Delta. No. They split instantly, Maya and Grayson toward the eastern exit. Micah toward the generator control to create a diversion. But as Maya turned the corner, she stopped cold. Saria Voss was standing in the corridor, waiting. Her posture was calm. Her eyes, like steel frozen in time. You're predictable, Agent William, Voss said. That's your weakness. Maya raised her weapon. And your mistake is thinking I won't pull the trigger. Voss smiled. We don't need to fight. You could join me. You've seen what justice really looks like. Slow, corrupt, blind. What we're building, it's a correction. A world that finally makes sense. I've heard that before, Maya growled. Always from monsters. Voss tilted her head. Is it monstrous to stop war before it begins? To neutralize hate before it spreads? We don't kill indiscriminately. We guide evolution. By deciding who deserves to exist, Voss's expression hardened. By removing the variables that lead to chaos. Maya fired, but Voss was already moving, ducking behind a steel pillar. The round hit the wall. Maya advanced, exchanging fire. Grayson joined the fight from the flank, forcing Voss to retreat toward a server vault. She threw a smoke canister, bought herself a few seconds, and vanished through an escape hatch just as Micah triggered the blackout. Sirens blared. Power died. Emergency lights bathed the halls in red. They made it to the extraction point with seconds to spare. As they leapt into the getaway van, Maya looked back through the glass. Aether was still running. But now, they had a name, a face, and a war that had just evolved. Back in New York, as dawn broke, Maya sat in the debriefing room with Casey. "You got anything?" she asked. Casey nodded slowly. "I got everything." She slid a tablet across the table. On it, over 2,000 documents, including a file named Project Harvest. "What is it?" Maya asked. Casey's voice was quiet. "Voss's endgame, genetic preselection, behavioral programming in utero. They're not just tracking bloodlines anymore. They're creating them." Maya stared at the screen. No words came. Only fire in her chest. The conference room inside the New York safe house was dim, illuminated only by the cold glow of the tablet screen on the table. Maya stood at the head of the room, her arms folded tightly as Casey briefed them on what she'd found. "Project Harvest isn't just a file," Casey said, her voice low but firm. "It's a manifesto, a blueprint for human engineering on a global scale, designed, coded, and approved by Aether." Micah leaned forward, his face carved in disbelief. "You're saying they're creating people?" Casey nodded grimly. "Harvest selects genetic candidates, embryos, unborn children, from carefully selected bloodlines. Bloodlines determined by algorithmic fitness, not physical health, not intelligence, ideological compatibility." Grayson's voice was a near whisper. "They're building loyalists from the womb." "Exactly," Casey said. "From birth, these individuals would be socially and psychologically preconditioned, guided by subtle environmental manipulation, curated media, tailored education, even engineered trauma." Silence blanketed the room. Then Maya spoke. "This isn't just dangerous. It's genocide wrapped in white lab coats. Selective breeding for the modern age." Casey added. "And they're already testing it. The data mentions pilot programs in 5 locations: Singapore, Johannesburg, Sao Paulo, Warsaw, and Atlanta." That last word hung in the air. Micah's brow furrowed. "Atlanta?" Grayson looked up. "My father funded a health tech foundation there. Years ago. I thought it was for vaccine development." Maya's jaw tensed. "That might have been the cover." She turned to Casey. "Pull every record on that foundation. I want staff lists, board meetings, financial ties. Now." Casey nodded and got to work. Maya stepped out onto the balcony. The city lights buzzed below, but her mind was already in another place, another time. She remembered being 15. Foster system. Moved from house to house. Once, in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, a counselor had told her, "The world needs more obedient children." Now, Maya understood. That wasn't advice. That was indoctrination. By noon, they had what they needed. The Atlanta facility, officially a pediatric development research center, had received private investments from over 20 anonymous donors in the last 6 years, all routed through shell accounts that matched Horizon's laundering patterns. Worse, it had recently requested permits for cognitive response experimentation. They weren't just collecting data. They were starting the harvest. Grayson stood at the board, pointing at the building layout. "We strike tonight. We have one shot before they relocate the program." Micah added, "They're not going to go down easy. If they're this close to implementation, the site will be crawling with protection." Maya nodded. "We go in hard. Get the intel. Expose it to the world." Casey interjected, "We do that. We risk burning every asset we still have. They'll shut down, scatter. We'll never find Voss again." Maya turned to her. "If we let this continue, Voss doesn't need to be found. She'll already have won." At 2:03 a.m., under clouded skies and the hum of low-flying helicopters, the team descended upon the Atlanta facility. They came in through a side maintenance shaft underground, quiet, fast. Inside, the facility was pristine. White walls, hushed hallways, neon lights glowing behind glass panels. It felt less like a hospital and more like a stage. And then, they found them. Rows of observation chambers. Children, no older than 5 or 6. Some asleep, others sitting silently, staring into screens that fed them curated images, political symbols, languages, racial profiles, algorithms running in real time above their heads, calculating compatibility percentages. Maya's stomach turned. Micah approached one chamber. A boy sat inside, humming softly to himself, rocking back and forth. A tag on the door read, Subject 240. 1. Project Harmony. Emotional Conditioning. Phase 3. Grayson clenched his fists. They're programming identity. Nah. Maya's voice broke. No, they're erasing it. Suddenly a burst of noise crackled through the intercom. Security breach. East Wing. Lockdown in progress. Casey's voice cut in through the comms. They triggered a silent alarm. You've got company. 8 armed. Closing in. Maya issued orders fast. Micah. Grayson. Extract as many digital records as you can. Get proof. I'll create diversion. Meet at the extraction tunnel in 15 minutes. Without waiting, she turned and disappeared down the hallway. The gunfight erupted like lightning. Maya moved with precision, taking down 2 guards before they saw her coming. The hallway became a maze of fire and shadow. She took a hit to the shoulder, grazing, but kept moving. Grayson and Micah reached the data vault. Micah plugged in a transfer spike. Screens blinked to life, showing patient logs, development algorithms, funding ledgers. 3 minutes, Micah muttered it. Grayson glanced at the entrance. We won't have 3. Meanwhile, in the observation hall, one of the children, Subject 241, stood at the glass, hand pressed against it. Maya, bleeding and breathless, returned. She looked at the boy. I'm getting you out, she whispered. The boy didn't react, just stared. Maya smashed the lock panel and opened the door. As she lifted the child into her arms, he suddenly whispered, Do I have to be like them? Maya froze. No, she said. You get to be you. They regrouped at the extraction tunnel. Casey waiting with a vehicle at the exit. Grayson jumped in first, supporting Maya as she handed off the child. Micah came last, carrying a duffel full of hard drives. The moment they cleared the tunnel, the facility behind them exploded. Chain reaction. A Tim demolition. They destroyed it, Maya said, stunned. They wiped it clean, but not before we got the truth, Micah said, holding up the drives. Casey looked at the child. What now? Maya sat back, eyes closed. Now we show the world what they were willing to hide, and we find Voss, before she builds the next one. Grayson looked at the boy, who had fallen asleep against Maya's side. He deserves a future, he said softly. Maya nodded. So does everyone they tried to erase. And outside, as the van disappeared into the Georgia dawn, the first light of reckoning began to rise. The footage leaked before sunrise. By 6 a.m., it had reached every major news outlet across the globe. A 7-minute compilation, skillfully edited by Casey, revealing everything. The lab in Atlanta, the rows of children, the behavioral algorithms flashing across their screens, and the haunting phrase stamped on dozens of internal files. Project Harvest, building the future before it builds itself. There was no narrator, no dramatic music, just raw, unfiltered truth. Within hours, the world roared back. Congress held emergency hearings. Human rights organizations launched international investigations. Parents began demanding DNA transparency from medical centers. For the first time in decades, the veil of control slipped, and the public saw what had been lurking behind it. But with exposure came consequence. Back at the New York safe house, Maya sat silently at the edge of the briefing table. The boy, Subject 241, was sleeping in the next room, curled into a blanket, clinging to a stuffed dog Micah had bought from a street vendor. They're calling it the modern-day eugenics scandal, Casey said, her voice flat, exhausted. Some media outlets are calling it a conspiracy. Others are calling for mass arrests, but no one's ignoring it. Micah stood at the window, arms crossed. So far, 5 labs worldwide have been shut down. Warrants issued in Brazil and South Africa, Warsaw facility burned to the ground, probably by Horizon to erase evidence. Grayson looked over a printout of known Horizon affiliates. No mention of Saria Voss anywhere. She's a ghost again. Maya finally spoke. That means she's planning something. Casey turned her monitor. You're right. We've been monitoring encrypted chatter in darknet clusters. A phrase keeps popping up, phase omega. Attached to multiple strings connected to genetic data centers and behavioral think tanks. Grayson narrowed his eyes. What's phase omega? Casey hesitated. I don't know yet. But based on the pattern, it looks like a kill protocol. Micah turned. Kill protocol for what? Data? Casey shook her head. No. People. It's targeting anyone who was once part of Harvest. Not just current subjects, but whistleblowers, former staff, medical personnel, and... She paused. Maya stared at her. And? Casey whispered. Rescuers. They all fell silent. Grayson exhaled slowly. She's erasing the trail. Not just evidence. Everyone. Maya stood. Then we stop her. We end this. No more shadows. No more silence. Micah looked over. Where do we start? Casey brought up a map. One location stands out. Greenland. Remote base. Cold War-era structure reactivated 6 months ago. Under a fake climate research grant. It's connected to Horizon through a shell company called Polaris Labs. Greenland, Maya repeated. Where no one will ask questions. Where people disappear. Casey nodded. I believe that's where Voss is executing Phase Omega. She's not just hiding there, she's orchestrating the purge from it. Grayson grabbed his gear. Then that's where we go. The flight to Greenland was grueling, long, cold, and quiet. They flew under aliases, using military transport borrowed through one of Grayson's remaining defense contacts. The boy, Subject 241 now called Noah, was left behind in a safe, undisclosed location with full protection. Maya had watched him sleep one last time before boarding, brushing his curls back with the tenderness of someone who knew what it meant to lose a childhood. Be better than what they tried to make you, she had whispered. Now, standing at the threshold of the frozen compound, she felt the weight of every choice that had led them here. The structure was bleak, concrete and steel, built into the side of a glacier. No lights, no activity. But Casey had confirmed heat signatures. Power was still being routed in from a satellite array. Micah readied a silent breach charge. This is it. No backups, no second wave. Maya nodded. We end it. Inside, the compound was colder than outside. Frost clung to the walls, but the tech was anything but primitive. Glass servers buzzed quietly. Rows of pods lined the center corridor, each holding a name, a heartbeat, a face. Casey's voice came through the comm. I've accessed the mainframe remotely. Uploading data extraction protocols now. Maya moved forward cautiously. In the center room, a screen flickered on, and Saria Voss appeared. Liv. Her face was calm, but her eyes glinted with fire. Well done, she said, her voice echoing through the cold. You've disrupted my plans. You've stolen my data. But did you really think this was about children? Maya stepped forward. It was always about the children. Voss shook her head. No. It was about control, not just over genetics, but over the very idea of truth. You think exposing us changes the world? No. It just forces us to evolve faster. You're finished, Maya said. Voss smiled. Then why are you still talking to a recording? Micah shouted. It's a stall. Suddenly, the doors behind them slammed shut. Alarms shrieked. Explosives armed. Casey! Maya shouted into the comm. I see it. Systems triggering a lockdown. She's blowing the whole site. We need exit coordinates now. Casey fed them through an old ventilation shaft route leading to a snowmobile cache outside the glacier's base. The team sprinted through smoke and sirens, dodging bursts of flame as the structure collapsed around them. They burst through the outer hatch just as the detonation engulfed the facility behind them. A wave of heat rolled out, melting snow and throwing them to the ground. When the fire died, the compound was nothing but a crater. And Voss was gone again. Hours later, back in New York, Maya sat beside Noah once more. He was watching cartoons, something innocent, something real. Grayson entered the room with a file in his hand. She's still out there, he said softly. Maya didn't answer. He placed the file beside her. Inside, a list of rescued children. All safe. All placed in new homes with new names. She failed, he added. She tried to play God, but you reminded the world what it means to be human. Maya stared at the boy. No, she whispered. We reminded them. Because truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way back to the surface. It had been 12 days since the explosion in Greenland, and Saria Voss had vanished without a trace. Interpol had issued red notices. Intelligence agencies were working overtime. Public outcry had escalated to international pressure. But Maya knew better. Voss hadn't gone into hiding. She had simply changed skins. The war wasn't over. It had just gone deeper underground. Back at the safe house, Maya stood over a wall of photos, maps, and red-stringed connections, what Casey had started calling the ghost board. At the center was Voss, her scarred face now the symbol of modern-day ideological warfare. Around her, satellite firms, digital shell companies, encrypted forums, pharmaceutical investors' names that moved funds and data like weapons. Casey tapped her tablet. We've picked up activity in Tangier. Black site shipment logs, biometric shipments, codenamed Ghost Protocol. Micah leaned forward. That's not just a name, that's an operation. Maya nodded. Voss is building again. Only this time, she's not relying on institutions or governments. She's going full shadow network. Private funding. Private protection. She learned her lesson. Grayson joined them, holding a classified report. We just got this from a contact at the CIA. There's a signal bouncing between Tangier, Jakarta, and a lab in Austin, Texas. Same algorithm signature from Ether. This isn't just a resurgence. It's a reset. Maya processed this. She's trying to start fresh, but faster, Casey added. And meaner. The chatter we intercepted includes terms like compliance chips, neurolock, and loyalty conditioning. She's done with subtleties. Maya stepped away from the board and looked out the window. The city below bustled, unaware of the storm still brewing above them. She's trying to finish what Horizon started. But with no oversight, no weakness, and no face, the team decided to divide their focus. Micah and Grayson would follow the signal to Austin, where the tech components of Ghost Protocol were allegedly being produced. Maya and Casey would head to Tangier, the suspected staging ground for shipment and field testing. At JFK Airport, as they prepared to board separate flights, Maya turned to Grayson. This ends with her, she said. He nodded. It has to. Tangier was dust and gold under the morning Sunday. The air was thick with spice and salt, and the Medina pulsed with life, unaware that 2 agents had just landed to track down a global ghost. Maya and Casey checked into a modest apartment above a cafe, eyes constantly scanning the streets. Within 6 hours, Casey had found a pattern. She's using a fake humanitarian charity, Casey explained. Typing rapidly. New Horizons International. Looks noble education programs. Water access. But the cargo logs show anomalies. Biometric processors. Neural mapping tools. Even chemical agents, disguised as medical supplies. Where's the warehouse? Maya asked. Casey pulled up a satellite image. South Harbor, guarded but no official military. Looks like mercenaries. That night, Maya went alone. She scaled the back wall of the compound using nothing but shadows and memory. Years of training still lived in her bones, no matter how much blood she'd lost to this war. Inside, she moved like a ghost herself. Through crates and cold steel corridors, she found the lab. Makeshift, brutal. Inside were rows of helmets, neurological conditioning devices. Beside them, vials labeled with barcodes, and a terminal blinking with familiar code. Aether's fingerprint. Then she heard it. Footsteps. A voice. I told you, this round needs to be field ready by Thursday. Maya pressed herself into the shadows as a tall man in a black vest walked past. He was speaking to a woman tall, graceful, and unmistakable. Saria Voss. She was alive. She was here. And she was planning to launch something soon. Maya raised her phone and snapped a photo of Voss, then began recording the conversation. We'll test the neurolocks on Group 12, Voss said calmly. If the success rate is 80% or higher, we ship to Jakarta. Phase 2 depends on how controllable they are after imprint. The man asked, and if they break conditioning? We terminate, Voss replied without blinking. Failure is not a trait we replicate. Maya clenched her jaw. Children. Again. She turned to slip out quiet, measured when her elbow brushed a loose tray. It clattered. Who's there? A voice barked. Flashlights whipped around. Maya dove into a storage tunnel and rolled beneath a pipe, heart racing. One guard entered the room, looking around. He stepped closer. Too close. Maya waited until his foot crossed the pipe, then shot up, wrapped an arm around his neck, and silenced him within seconds. She made it out before backup arrived. Back at the apartment, Casey worked her magic. She isolated the voice print from Maya's recording, verified Voss's presence, and triangulated supply lines to Jakarta, confirming the next target site. Maya poured coffee into a chipped mug, eyes never leaving the map. We hit Jakarta before the shipment lands, she said. We expose the last piece of this machine. And Voss? Casey asked. We bring her in. Alive. Public. No shadows this time. Man. Meanwhile, in Austin, Micah and Grayson had breached the lab and found the factory floor of Ghost Protocol, microchip implants designed to send signals to cerebral cortex receptors. Fully testable. Fully scalable. And one chip already carried a name. Noah. Grayson stared at the screen. They knew we saved him, he said softly. They put a tracker in his bloodstream before he left the lab. Micah growled. This was never about stopping their plan. It was about luring us into it. They wanted us to expose them, Grayson realized. Why? To burn the weak links, Micah said, and test the strong ones. A beep interrupted their thoughts, an emergency ping from Maya. Target confirmed. Voss alive. Shipping to Jakarta in 48 hours. Prepare final convergence. Micah and Grayson looked at each other. It's all or nothing now, Grayson said. And outside, the night sky flickered with storm clouds. The final battle wasn't coming. It had already begun. Jakarta was a city of contradictions where glass towers rose beside crumbling concrete, where the chaos of traffic masked the quiet of secrets being moved beneath. And on its eastern port, an unmarked cargo vessel was scheduled to dock under a falsified name, Caldera, shipment origin Tangier. It was the final piece. On board, packed into sealed containers, were hundreds of neurolock devices, biological injectors, and data chips marked Phase Omega. The coordinates, the code, and the cargo all pointed to the same truth. Voss was moving to implement mass behavioral control at scale. This time, not just on orphans, not just in remote labs, but in urban populations. Hidden in plain sight, Maya stood on the rooftop of a half-constructed tower across from the port, her dark tactical gear blending into the dusk. Grayson and Micah were 3 blocks out, closing in from ground level. Casey was already inside Jakarta's telecom exchange center, rerouting camera feeds and suppressing outgoing alerts. We've got one shot, Casey said through the comms. Voss is traveling with the shipment. Satellite confirms she's aboard. Maya checked her sidearm, eyes fixed on the cargo ramp. Then this ends tonight. The strike began at 21:03. Micah detonated an EMP charge that killed the port's power for a full 90 seconds, long enough for the gates to be breached and the vessel stormed. Inside, the guards were ready, but so was Maya. She moved like a storm, low, lethal, silent. Grayson flanked from the upper catwalks, neutralizing 2 snipers before they could take aim. Micah hacked the control room, locking down all exits. They cornered the cargo bay in under 10 minutes. Voss was there, standing in front of the shipment with a pistol in one hand and a briefcase in the other. Her expression was calm, eerily so. You're predictable, Agent William, she said, her voice echoing off the metal walls. You already used that line. Maya replied coldly. Voss smiled. Because it's still true. You're driven by emotion, justice, redemption, but you fail to see the bigger picture. Maya stepped forward, unflinching. I see it. I see a woman who used children as test subjects, who tried to rewire free will, who nearly destroyed a generation for the illusion of control. They were broken, Voss snapped, her mask slipping. Left behind, unwanted. I gave them purpose. I gave them value. No, Maya said. You gave them fear. A beat of silence. Then Voss slowly lowered her weapon. You won't shoot me. That's not who you are. You're right, Maya said. Behind her, Grayson emerged, weapon raised. But I am, he growled. Don't, Maya said firmly. Voss's eyes flicked between them. She took a careful step back toward the briefcase. Touch it and you're done, Maya warned. I already pressed it, Voss said. A soft beep echoed. A countdown had begun. All around the world, Voss said slowly, these devices are waking up. Jakarta, São Paulo, Lagos, Kiev, Mumbai. You stopped the pilot, but not the wave. Micah's voice crackled in Maya's ear. She's not bluffing. Remote signal's been triggered. We've got 5 minutes. Maya stepped forward, gun still aimed. Call it off. Voss shook her head. You'll have to kill me, or let it happen. Maya paused, then spoke calmly into her comm. Casey, send the global kill code. We do it now. On it, Casey replied. Seconds passed like hours. Voss laughed quietly. Even if you wipe the tech, the idea is already out. Someone else will try. You can't stop evolution. No, Maya said, but I can stop you. A soft chime sounded. Casey's voice came through. Signal neutralized. Global cascade aborted. It's over. Voss's eyes widened, for the first time showing something close to fear. Maya stepped forward, cuffed her hands, and whispered, This isn't about evolution. This is about choice. And you lost yours the moment you tried to steal everyone else's. 3 days later, the world watched live as Saria Voss was brought before an international tribunal at The Hague. Her crimes, human experimentation, psychological warfare, attempted mass manipulation were read aloud in chilling detail. Dozens of rescued children, now under new names and safe care, sat silently in the gallery. Among them, Noah. Maya sat beside him, her hand gently resting on his. Voss refused to speak a single word during the trial, but the evidence video, documents, testimonies spoke for her. The sentence was unanimous: life imprisonment, with no possibility of release. Outside the court, journalists swarmed. One managed to ask Maya as she exited, What do you say to those who claim this was all a conspiracy? That it's too big to believe? Maya looked directly into the camera. I say truth has always been too big for some people to accept, but that doesn't make it any less real. Back in New York, weeks later, Maya stood in a quiet garden built atop the city's largest community center. It was a project funded by Grayson's foundation named The Choice Project. Aplek read, To every child told they were broken, you were never the problem. Micah joined her, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Still don't like the name, he said with a smirk. Maya smiled. I do. Because that's what we fought for. Not to destroy systems. Not to take vengeance. But to give people back their right to choose. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Maya asked, What next? Grayson walked up from behind. The world doesn't just heal. It needs people who remember. People who stay. Maya looked out over the skyline. The sun was rising, and for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like the end of something. It felt like the beginning. That night, as she tucked Noah into bed at the safe house, he looked up at her with sleepy eyes. Do I still have to be brave? He asked. Maya knelt beside him. Only when it matters. And never alone. He nodded, then whispered, Will the bad people come back? She thought for a moment, then replied, Maybe, but so will the good ones. And in the dark, that was enough. This story reminds us that the true measure of a society is not found in its wealth or its technology, but in how it protects the most vulnerable. In a world increasingly driven by control, power, and silent systems of oppression, it takes courage to stand up, to speak truth, and to protect the dignity of every human life. Maya Williams' journey teaches us that justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet act of defiance. Sometimes it's choosing to save one life, even when the world turns away. Her courage, born from pain and shaped by experience, reminds us that those who've been broken are often the ones most willing to fight for what's right. The story also challenges us to confront the hidden biases and structures we often ignore, how easily progress can become a mask for manipulation, and how silence can be complicity. But most importantly, it leaves us with this truth. We all have a choice: to turn away or to get involved, to accept injustice or to stand against it, to let fear rule us or to let compassion lead. And sometimes, one voice, one choice, one act of courage can change everything.